Hey Raphael, Coach Brandon here, and I am currently at my home, which is why you see some beautiful stockings right behind me. But we'll go ahead and look at some of your videos that you sent in, along with go over some programming stuff. So starting with the videos, actually starting out with Sumo, one of the first things I noticed, well, that's kind of weird face right there. One of the first things I noticed though is that we've already gotten a ton better when it comes to tension building, but there is an area that I do want to improve on actually before we even look at the video. When we're going to build tension in the sumo deadlift, there's a few areas that people commonly mess up on. They get the motion, they get the motion fairly correct, but they miss out on two parts. One, they either don't press their feet through the floor, so they never actually create tension. They just passively bring their hips in. Or two, they will forget the knees to plate part, which is a vitally important part because getting your hips closer to load puts you in a more advantageous position, which makes it so that the tension building works even more so. And on top of that, you end up getting more upright and getting proper, you get better utilization of the muscles as opposed to work. Right now, we are killing it with the tension. The feet in the floor looks really, really good. We're building decent tension, but the piece that we're missing a little bit is we have to bring our knees to plates. So what I mean by that is your knees, instead of just going forward, we need to bring them to the actual plates so your stance actually gets wider as you build tension. Bars bend, 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 bend. As you build tension, knees go further and further out. Now, something that's going to help to facilitate this is bringing your toes from here to here. Getting about a 45-degree toe angle is going to help facilitate bringing the knees out more, but also just thinking about bringing the knees out more is going to be a really good cue for you. So let's go ahead and look at the video and kind of see what I'm talking about here. You notice this. So right there, ideally, our knees are going to these plates right here. Knees are coming further and further out in this direction here, but instead the knees went forward. So let's look at the video once more. Knees go forward, hips stay really far away from the load, making it so that you don't have the best speed off the floor. The pattern looks good. Pattern looks really good. We are building decent tension, but something that's going to bring it over the top, something that's really, really going to help long-term, help with muscle engagement, athletic qualities, so on and so forth, is that one little cue of getting your knees further out into the plates as you build tension. This is going to be something that's vitally important for you and has a huge benefit to the actual pattern. So once more, we just need to bring those knees further out as we build tension instead of having them so far forward. That's really the last thing that we have to improve on with the deadlift. Once we get that all queued up, it's going to be really, really good stuff from there on out. I don't think there's a lot to go over in the squat. Squat's already looking a ton better. You have better elbow position. Breathing and bracing's killer. Yeah, everything's looking real good. Yeah, so that's looking really good. Like what I'm seeing there. The bench press. So the one thing I do have to note here, it's really hard to see the pattern this far away. So if you can, maybe getting it at least half the distance that it currently is to yourself as you lift is going to be a really good idea. And it's going to help me out a lot being able to see little nuances in the bench press. Because as you can see now, it's pretty far away. I don't get the best angle, but that's completely fine. Yeah, everything's looking real nice. Not a whole lot to note with the bench press. You see that rep. Now, the one thing we may be able to improve on a little bit, I do want to incorporate some tempo bench press into the next block. So this is the last week of this block, so let's really push load, see what we can hit in terms of numbers. In the next block, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more athletic qualities into programming, along with some specific accessories to help with the things that I've seen in this previous month. And one of the things I'm definitely going to include is going to be tempo bench press because I do want to repattern it a little bit. You'll notice at the bottom of the bench press, we're doing a little bit of what I call a skull crusher fault. And what that means is at the bottom, instead of being perfectly stacked, our elbows are a little further out or a little further in front of you than the barbell is. So it ends up being like a skull crusher, except obviously much, much more minimal. So instead of being in a perfectly stacked position, we end up just a little bit here at the bottom of our bench press. Now, sometimes people do this to help facilitate the backwards motion as they come up, but I have not found this to be very productive. Typically, I really like to strive for a perfectly stacked position on the bottom, have the first about 6 to 8 inches, only a third. The last third of the bench press should be back towards the spotter's face if there was one. The first 2/3 should be straight up, straight up, straight up, and then back at the end. And if we end up with a skull crusher fault, it wastes a lot of energy. It's really hard to utilize all of your musculature when you're not optimally stacked. And on top of that, oftentimes people will start driving back far too soon. We have to keep in mind the first 2/3 of the bench press on the way up should be straight up and no backwards motion whatsoever. So getting out of this skull crusher pattern or the skull crusher stacked position is going to be key in terms of having a better power transfer in the bench press. Let's look at it one more time. It's very minimal, and I wouldn't say it's that big of a deal, but just fixing it alone is going to end up with more pounds on the bar and more proficient press. So this is what I'm talking about here. If I were to draw a line, this is where your arms are. This is where your elbows are. It's like a skull crusher kind of position. Obviously, much more minimal than an actual skull crusher, but ideally, the elbows will be right here. That way, it's a straight up and down, nice and stacked position. First 2/3 of the bench press is straight up and then back. But this will help facilitate a better pattern once you fix this position a little bit. And on top of that, you'll get a far better power transfer in this more stacked position. Realistically, this is the only thing I think you benefit from bench press in terms of technique changes. Just getting a more stacked bottom position is going to help out a lot. I think that's just about it in terms of videos. Just to recap, sumo deadlift, just the knees to plate skew. That alone is going to be a huge benefit in terms of getting better at the sumo. When it comes to bench press, just getting in a more stacked bottom position is going to be killer. It's going to help out a lot. And when it comes to programming, it's going to be our last week of this block. So it's really push load, see what we can hit in this rep scheme, and then we're going to add more athletic qualities in and exercises in next month, along with a lot of different accessories to help better your patterns in the lifts and based off what I've seen this previous month. Let me know if you have any questions at all.